Fade in. Blackness. The sound of footsteps trudging up a staircase. The footsteps are heavy. The sound of knocking at a door. After a moment, a second round of slightly heavier knocking. Interior. Ethan's apartment. Evening. Open close on Ethan Deblinger, 40. Staring at his apartment door, he appears apprehensive. Silence.
I know you're there. Are you just gonna pretend you're not home, or are you gonna open the door?
After an internal decision, Ethan unlocks the door and swings it open. Maggie Ramsey, 35, small backpack, urban gear vibe, pretty but rough around the edges. They look at one another for a moment. Maggie marches in as if they've been through this before. Ethan closes the door as Maggie pours herself a glass of water.
Permission? This isn't working for me anymore. I want us to have a 2-month timeout. I don't want to do what we did last time, bump into each other, pretend we're fine.
Ethan also pours himself a water but remains standing. Maggie stands and goes over to the window. She peers out.
Why do you think this happened?
Doesn't matter what you think. How you were raised, it happened quickly. It was perfect.
Perfect.
Cosmic intervention, quantum reckoning no one could sidestep, other than Himalayan monks and a few Amish families.
Ethan goes over to a kitchen cabinet, takes out a box and places it on the dining table.
Do you really have to do that now? No one's raging nowadays.
Ethan opens up a wood box and removes a black Beretta handgun and places it on the table. He then takes out a small bag of bullets.
Instead of lying themselves to death, they'd rather snap and come at you.
So why are we so lucky that we're still here?
You mean, why did you invite me to go to Iceland to view it? Some remote village, a 2-day walk to civilization?
We were lucky to be stranded there.
They had to pay.
They who? You mean all the innocent people who didn't know they were gonna die?
Ethan loads more bullets into a second clip, pops open a tiny gun oil container and rag.
We were lucky we were raised right.
What? Like, I always told the truth because I didn't want to be punished, or you, who discovered brutal honesty was a way of life.
Maggie opens up an electric cooler with a wire going out the window. She fishes out several carrots and finds a peeler.
So how did the Icelanders figure it out first?
Permission?
Maggie nods.
You know, being stuck up there in that hut with you was the most happy I've ever been. Ever. All I wanted to do was tell my truth to you. And make fish on an open fire. Was it the same for you?
Before the wave, I was in love with you.
But
Once we all found out and so many died, I couldn't go back
back?
to a simplistic view of love.
They figured it out first because there never was the need to lie within their community, including to tourists in love.
Maggie opens up the cooler again and takes out some Thousand Island dressing and squeezes it into an espresso cup. Ethan snaps the backup clip into the gun handle, double checks the chamber and then the safety. Out of nowhere, we hear a loud sneeze. It sounds as if it's in the room or behind a wall. Our point of view moves around Ethan and Maggie. We suddenly see soft spotlights shining down. They're on stage in a play in a theater. There's an audience of maybe 7 or 8 people watching the play. Interior of the old theater. It's an old 150-seat theater. The stage is sparse, but there's an apartment set, a kitchen. From behind 2 audience members, we view Ethan and Maggie on stage.
And it's why they're here.
Maggie gestures towards the 7 audience members. Ethan looks out into the crowd, breaking the 4th wall. He takes them in.
Right. So by the time we walked the 2 days back into the nearest town, it was all over the news. Millions were sick. People were dying. No one could explain why.
And by the time we were able to get on a ship, since most things with electronics weren't working, it was sinking in.
Those who were still alive had one thing in common. They didn't lie.
Speak a lie out loud, not good, but think a lie, that was okay. Most people don't think before they speak, though.
They just say first thoughts, which are sometimes little white lies. If you say enough little white lies, you get cancer
Or a heart attack. And before we knew it, over 1 billion people were gone. So yeah, Total breakdown of society and government as a whole new way of relating emerged.
Hence this play. Where were we?
Someone from the audience speaks. Iceland! Being in love!
Being in love. Right. All before we each had our own come to Jesus moment.
As Ethan and Maggie speak from stage, we pan across a few of the people in the audience, taking in their weathered faces, young and old.
We were all blindsided. People dropping like flies. Friends, family, the elite.
But leading up to the wave, well, you all remember, it was astounding to see that new star. The media telling us how it would unfold.
Yeah, they were wrong. Fucking wrong, big time.
Interior of the old theater at night. In the past, the end scene of the onstage of the Cherry Orchard. The character fears. Ethan lies down and dies. The stage goes dark. A full theater of applause erupts. The entire cast comes on stage, including Maggie, as they all take their curtain call. We're inside the loft later that evening. It's the closing night after party. Cast, crew, friends are scattered about in the open, spacious loft. The loft's vast, has multiple spaces. We see cuts of a pool table, open brick dance floor, Game of Thrones table, rustic kitchen, corner bar, a lounge area tight on a cluster of the cast in the kitchen, including the director, Cajun, who has a bearded, ageless quality, Maggie and fellow actors.
The crowd was half the people here, so technically, standing ovation was guaranteed.
Cheers to our fearless leader and sometime director, Senor McGuire.
They all raise their glasses and clink.
So they're saying the star's explosion will be traveling at some absurd speed and will arrive here in what?
9 weeks.
But isn't that impossible? Isn't Orion light years away?
Something like 700 light years.
So how can it cover light years and weeks?
Maggie glances around the loft and spots Ethan over by the lounge. Their eyes say everything, as if they have a secret between them.
This blast has never been viewed in our time. It's unmeasurable, is what they're saying.
See? Lepatkin knows a few things. Ross isn't just a money grubber indeed.
Jump cut, we see Maggie in her circle from Ethan's POV. He sips a glass of red. More cast and crew around him.
No, really. There are these communities now that are completely anti-tech. No connectivity, other than at some media hut.
Hut? Sounds like some Wim Hof shit.
Doesn't he do his thing in like the Netherlands?
I couldn't do it. Be away from my device.
It looked kind of cool. A cooperative living system is what they're calling it.
Sounds New World Order-ish to me. Do you have to give them all your stuff?
I don't have any stuff.
Being a minimalist isn't how you portray it, Ethan.
You're right. Detachment isn't fly by night.
Jump cut to later. There's less of a crowd. A few couples, slow dancing over the bricks, some cast playing pool. The kitchen's still lively.
For me, it pushes all my fear buttons. I can't buy into the dimensional shift BS.
Listening intently are Maggie, Ethan, Cajun, and the vibe's more serious. Friends have left, and now it's just the cast and partners.
Ethan's the writer,
Hey, I write too.
and Maggie, of course, she does everything. But maybe you two could write something about the wave. Dr. Lavoilette, the super wave theory, takes place underground or...
On the space station. It's always on the space station with artificial gravity.
As long as I get a role, I'm down. Underground bunker, white coats, unseen particles. Ethan, you gotta write an original for us.
They're saying it's going to be brightest near the Arctic Circle.
Right. Gretchen and I can head off to Reykjavik and surrender our fears to Yggdrasil.
That's not funny, Cage. Greta, what?
It's the tree that holds the Norse cosmos together. And the tree's fate is linked to Ragnarok.
Some Marvel bullshit.
It's a little older than Marvel.
You two should go. Wink, wink.
Maggie and Ethan side glance at one another. We jump cut to later. The bar is happening. An Irish quaint, moody. Room for only 4 or 5 people. Behind the bar sits an open-air jacuzzi. A few cast members from earlier, semi-nude in the background, hidden behind thick oak beams. Terrence is comfortable at the bar top. Maggie and Ethan are with Ross and Imogen at stools and standing.
And for a final performance, I was off. Dawn has her traditions, and I think for this eve it was a double.
I have a pre-show tradition. Marvin Gaye, let's get it on. Just puts me in the mood.
To act, put you in the mood to act, right?
Giggles and laughter from the spa echo into the bar. They all turn to see Cajun standing making bodybuilder poses for Dawn and Gretchen.
So, Ethan, what have you been dabbling in these days? Anything new?
Yeah, Ethan, what have you been dabbling these days?
I've been dabbling with writer's block.
That's better than cock block.
That's fun.
Last time you were balling, it was something about aging backwards, yeah?
Yeah, that one's finished. Maggie's got the goods right now.
Oh, is that so?
Do tell, Magdala.
It's basically a love story, a throuple kind of thing.
Ooh, thruple. That's kind of hot. Poly, navigation sexy.
Yeah, it's out in the wilderness. I mean, I hope it's sexy.
Maybe Ethan can play one of the thruple.
Maybe not. Two writers who are dabbling should not always
Oh, yes, they should. Maybe Cajuns jump on a plane to Iceland's the way to solve that block.
Chekhov in Iowa to Stettel in Iceland, why not?
I'll drink to that. Let's get it on.
Downtown, on the street, in the daytime, we're parallel with Ethan on his bike, a cruiser. There's no one, no cars. The stores are mostly closed, boarded up. As Ethan pedals down the street, we begin to see the occasional body wrapped in white, or two bodies in bags here and there. As Ethan continues, a man and woman are placing a body onto a pile of around 9 bodies, a hand or leg sticking out, or a head half uncovered. We notice that Ethan's gun from the play is holstered, open carry, clipped tight. We hear some shouting from up ahead in the distance, screaming from a woman. Ethan slows the bike down and comes to a stop.
Jared, stop. Just stop. This isn't what you deserve.
The man, Jared, 40s, is gripping a large metal wrench.
We were doing fine. You had it under control. 3 breaths first.
Jared appears enraged, primal, and sick. He appears covered in sores. Ethan unclips the gun from his holster.
Jared, it's me, your wife, Libby. You don't have to take me with you.
No more lies. Truth is, I hate you. I can't stand you.
Jared inches closer, his grip on the wrench tightening.
This isn't the way. You don't have to do what your father did.
Jared places his free hand on the wrench like a baseball bat. 2 gunshots ring out. Blam! Blam! Jared falls to the ground. The wrench clanks on the pavement. Libby rushes to her husband, the life running out of him.
Let go, sweetheart. It's okay. I'm here. 3 breaths. It's over now.
Libby looks towards Ethan, a sad expression on his face. Interior of the theater, dressing room, nighttime. Ethan sits in the silence. He looks at a bottle of vodka sitting next to a carafe of water. He finally reaches over and pours himself a glass of water.
House is open. Too bad that's not real. It's Dawn's.
Maggie notices that something's off with Ethan.
You okay?
How many tonight?
6? You know, you can tell me.
I'll tell you on stage.
Maggie goes over to Ethan and faces him through the mirror.
I know you will.
Interior, the theater stage, night, later. Tight on the 9 audience members, a few couples, all worn, beaten survivors. The lighting's changed. There's a projection on a scrim. It's of a vast Icelandic landscape with stars appearing at sunset. The summer, it's so green with a sweet tiny house up against the rolling hills, the hint of snow on a mountain peak in the distance.
So yes, it was the director's idea. But Iceland was its own mystery for us. We were deposited at our cabin by Johan, kind of a Sherpa for tourists, after an 8-hour bus ride and then 4 hours in a Land Rover to our hut.
Johan told us the resupply Sherpa Gunner wouldn't arrive for 2 weeks, and that we should go lightly on the wood since there were no trees.
Maggie hits a switch on the stage and the lighting changes slightly. A spotlight hits a portion of the stage perfectly round. The actors move adjacent to the spot and become the scene in the hut, donning outdoor coats and hats. They look at one another.
Do you think we can make it through the 2 weeks?
Ethan just stares up into the spotlight.
Don't think about that future. What's that old saying? Yesterday's the past, tomorrow's a dream, but today's a gift. That's why it's called the present.
Better than life's a bitch and then you die.
Better than Mama used to say, life is like a box of chocolates.
Better than what's in the box. God, the truth is, I just had to leave, E. I had to get out of town, away from everything, and I couldn't do it alone. You were the only one I felt I could do it with. And this exploding star was my excuse.
They look up at the spotlight. It flickers softly. Maggie waits for Ethan's line as they stare out. She attempts to get Ethan back on the show.
Alone together in my tower moment.
Maggie turns to face Ethan in the light.
I killed a man today. I shot him. Twice.
Ethan, downtown, the street, day, the past. Ethan dismounts the bike. The sound we hear over the scene is, as Ethan speaks, is like ringing in the ears.
I felt nothing. I wanted to feel something, but I didn't.
Ethan walks towards Libby, who has her hand on Jared's heart, tight on Jared's eyes, wide, looking up and out.
He was going to kill his wife. If someone had told me I would have to do what I've had to do, I'd have told them they were crazy.
Ethan, a blank face, looks down on Jared. Their eyes meet. Jared mouths the words, "Thank you," to Ethan. Interior, the stage. In the theater, nighttime. Tight on Ethan, in the spot.
But no one is lying now.
Maggie watches Ethan exit the stage. She peers out into the audience. Close on Maggie, a deer in headlights. Then slowly one person begins clapping. Then two more join in. All 9 people in the audience applaud intensely. Maggie in the spot alone. Interior of the theater stage, the past. Replacing Maggie in the exact same frame and shot now is on Ross.
But we're still learning, still deciphering the science behind the super wave, its relations to our bodies and mind.
Close on Ross, the white lab coat. He's running lines for the new show. Close on Maggie, in the 3rd row, making notes. Beside her are Terrence and Ethan, plus Cajun, looking resolute, seated another row back.
We know the galactic core explosions happen every 25,000 years.
Maggie whispers something to Terrence as Imogen enters on stage next to Ross, also in a white lab attire.
And La Violette asserts that this event would be preceded by a strong gamma ray pulse, thousands of times stronger than that of a supernova.
Maggie interrupts the rehearsal.
Let's cut the next bit. What we're not accounting for was how the sun recalibrated and in turn affected the Schumann resonance.
Out of nowhere, Gretchen bursts into the back of the theater. She's in panic, fear covering her, barely keeping it together.
She's coughing up blood. I don't know what happened. We were making lunch. All of a sudden there was blood. Coughing blood.
Interior kitchen, continuous the past. Cajun, Terrence, Ethan, Maggie, Ross, and Imogen all look down on Dawn. She's conscious. Blood runs from her nose, corners of her mouth.
We were just talking.
Dawn opens her eyes, looks up at everyone.
We need to call 911.
Dawn, can you hear me? Are you allergic to anything?
To men. No allergies. Don't call 911.
Well, she still has her sense of humor.
Are you dizzy? Are you on any meds?
Ross and Terrence slowly help Dawn sit up.
Just take a few breaths. Don't stand up just yet.
Cajun squats down, gets close. He looks her over. Imogen hands him a damp towel.
I'm on an antidepressant. Low dose.
We were making casserole, sharing a glass of red.
Let's roll over to the emergency just to be safe.
Are you okay to stand?
I think so.
Terrence moves closer, helps her steady herself. Clearly, they're intimate.
Babe, ER is the right move.
As if snapping out of some haze, Dawn steps back from Terrence.
Don't call me babe. All your deceit. I saw the texts.
Let's save that shit for later.
Dawn, your side piece while you get the train in the station with someone else.
Dawn, you've had some kind of concussion. We need to get you to the ER.
Easy coming from you, Imogen. The director, darling, always talking behind people's backs.
Okay, now's not the time for...
Out of nowhere, more blood trickles from Dawn's nose. Her eyes roll back as she puts her hand up to her head. Dawn lets out a painful shriek. Dawn collapses to the floor, Ross and Cajun catching her.
Dawn? Dawn, buddy?
Tight again on Dawn, fresh blood oozing from the corners of her mouth. Interior of the loft lounge, night later, the past. Death is in the air. A melancholy abounds. Candles are lit. Cajun holds Gretchen on the couch. Terrence is aghast in solitude. Imogen and Ross appear pensive on the lounge. Ethan and Maggie are on the floor.
And why was emergency packed? It makes no sense. 1 minute you're making casserole, and the next, boom, blood clot burst.
Can we not talk about it right now, please.
Did you get through this van?
Ross checks his device.
My network has been all over the place, dropping or no signal.
I'll give him another try.
Aneurysms can go undetected. Just sending her light. Terrence, are you all right?
Terrence stares at the floor.
Herbal tea?
I still can't believe she's gone.
Yeah.
Keeps going to his voicemail. Someone must have let him know.
The elephants in the room.
Do tell.
All focus on Terrence as the water heats up in the kitchen. Maggie returning with tea options.
Yes, there was something on the side. Something new. It felt special. Dawn, we didn't have anything exclusive. I was going to talk to her about me and Sven, but the timing wasn't right. So there's your elephant.
Terrence stands.
I'm gonna go over and see if he's okay. This all sucks.
Terrence walks down the steps by the loft entrance after a moment.
And end scene. It's been a day. If rehearsal time changes, let me know.
Right home?
Ross nods, Imogen stands, gathers her scarf bag. Ethan motions for Cajun to join him privately, but out of earshot.
We'll holler if anything changes.
Night.
Gretchen stands, Cajun joins her.
My heart is heavy. I miss her already.
Good night, thespians.
Gretchen and Cajun exit. Maggie glances at Ethan as if sharing a secret.
So?
Ethan shakes his head no. Interior theater, morning, the present. Ethan works out on the bare stage. Ethan moves through a set of sit-ups, push-ups, planks. The old radio sits on the floor, along with a couple of kettlebells, a jump rope, bands, the water, the towel.
Another founder lying himself to death to preserve his company has passed. Jeff Bezos, Amazon CEO, succumbed to liver cancer complications after a short battle.
Ethan powers through his workout as we listen.
Bezos was an uncaring husband and is survived by his second ex-wife and 2 children. Amazon broke apart after Chapter 11 selling off most of its assets.
Jump cut to Ethan with his kettlebell, pushing reps.
Bezos lied his way through the world's economic collapse just as Apple's Tim Cook did before him.
Close on Ethan, jumping rope, sweating on his temples, the theater empty. Cut to the rubber stretch bands around a pole, Ethan flexing.
In other news, why did journaling allow one to skirt speaking the truth? And how come deaf populations around the world did so well?
Interior, the theater, the stage, nighttime. The scrim now displays a simple cafe. Interior on the background. Maggie and Ethan are middle of the show. Around 14 people are now in the audience.
I was never in love with you, Helen. I care about you. I want to see you happy without it being contingent on someone else.
Maggie spins around once on the stool at the table, changing character.
Yeah, I was jealous. I wanted your life, what you had, and I avoided you at parties. Thought you were a bitch.
Thank you.
They both spin around again and become old people.
Sophia can't tell the truth. She gets sick, pneumonia. She's not getting better.
It's a shame. I was a terrible father. I am a terrible father.
They spin around again on their stools. New characters.
Just level with me. What is up?
Ethan takes a breath in a new character.
I'm not sure. I go to my office, nothing works. I don't know what to do with myself. I'm not sure who I am now. And to be truthful, I miss the old world.
How can you say that?
I miss a world of deceit and fake news, double speak, not having to second guess what you're about to say in fear of saying something that isn't in resonance.
You sound angry.
Maybe that's what I am. Angry. And I don't even know it.
Ethan stands, spins around, and then falls on the floor. He's gripping his chest, close on Maggie, who looks concerned, but pissed off.
See, that's what happens. You start off fine and then you have to embellish. Ron the embellisher.
Ethan on stage as Ron grips his chest. Maggie turns to the crowd, breaks the fourth wall, addressing them.
Loss of emotional control. You blurt something out without forethought and BAM! A little white lie escapes. Some molecular thing happens. Suddenly you can't breathe. You can't speak. You die suddenly.
Exterior, downtown street, in the past. Ethan again on his cruiser. No bodies piled up. Cars going by, but something's off. We hear a siren in the background. Close on Ethan, he notices someone destroying their smartphone with a brick. Tight on a man collapsed onto the pavement. Another man leaning over him. Ethan keeps pedaling. A store alarm goes off in the distance. Interior of the theater, the concessions area, the past. The coffee is brewed. We're in the holding area lounge for the theater, a long space with tables and a piano at the far end. Seated are Ross and Terrence getting their coffees, or Maggie and Cajun, with Gretchen on the piano tinkering. Ethan arrives with his backpack slightly distraught.
You okay?
It's not safe out there.
The wheels have definitely come off. I had to dodge a car that swerved toward me this morning.
We need to postpone the show.
Arriving animated with a tire iron in hand.
I say let's keep rocking. Just give the show away. What does it matter? It's a free fall out there.
Look, something's happening, and for our own safety, we're pulling the plug.
The piano stops. Gretchen comes over and joins the group.
Hospitals are overwhelmed. National Guard's been deployed. Not the time.
The night Don died, you went over to his apartment.
All look towards Gretchen, all except Terrence, numb.
You said you found Sven in a coma. You said he was on the floor, his phone next to him. Is that true?
Silence.
Did you tell him about Dawn? I need to hear it from you.
Of course
Terrence.
I told him about Dawn. I told him I had feelings for him. I told him that Dawn had died. That it was all overwhelming, her seizure, people unraveling. He couldn't tell me the same back. I knew he had feelings. I said, just tell me the truth. But he couldn't. I left for the night. Stacy found him the next day, unconscious.
All are silent after a pause.
Thank you for telling us.
That's what you're going with? Stacy found him the next day?
Give it a rest, Imogen.
Truth is subjective, right? Two people witnessed the same event, two completely different stories.
That's what it is, Imogen? You got a problem with that?
When you left, he was fine.
He was in shock about Dawn.
Terrence gets up and leaves in a huff.
Keep an eye on your own shit, Imogen.
All settle down, the intense energy dissipating.
We need a way to speak to one another.
Let's all ask for permission before we say something to someone else.
What? Ask permission to speak?
Say the word permission before you open your big mouth, and then the other person can agree to hear you.
Go ahead, Ethan. Demo.
Ethan stands, as does Maggie. They face one another.
Permission?
Permission.
Scared of what's going on out there.
What else?
Scared we're on the precipice and we're about to fall into an abyss.
Permission?
Permission.
I've been having suicidal thoughts.
Wait, why haven't you told me?
Permission?
Rich, why didn't you say anything? You know you can tell me anything.
I didn't want to be a burden.
Honey, you're not a burden.
Cajun stops. He appears to be feeling something in his chest. He takes a deep breath, places his hand up to his heart. He's in pain.
It's just my heartburn acting up. I'm okay.
All look concerned. Maggie, Ethan trade a glance. Blackness. The sound of footsteps trudging up the staircase. The footsteps are heavy. The sound of knocking at a door. We're back on the stage in the theater. Evening. The present. Ethan stares at his apartment door.
I know you're there. You just gonna pretend you're not home? Or you gonna open the door?
The stage. Later, it's the Icelandic sunset. The image of the mountain peaks and the green fields on the projection. A fake fire pit glows from dark red light pointing up and onto a red fabric flapping from a small fan unseen. Ethan and Maggie sit at the fire pit, stools on stage. The audience has around 24 people scattered this time.
We're almost out of wood.
Ethan stares at the fire.
2,000 krona says Sherpa Gunner is a no-show.
I'm good with that.
It's getting colder each night.
But I have you to warn me.
Doesn't bother you
What?
that Starlink isn't working?
Not having the world at our fingertips is okay with me.
We have no idea what's happening with the world.
I know. Isn't that wonderful?
Maggie holds her hands up towards the fire, the fake flames flickering.
Isn't that what this trip was about? Getting lost in order to find something?
Maggie remains silent.
I haven't been this far away with anyone without knowing what I'm looking for. Usually we're all looking for something. I came out here to be with you, Maggie. Not to discover myself, not to forgive or forget, but just to be. here with you right now. This fire, this moment, this exploding star.
Again, the spotlight comes on, shining down, hitting the stage nearby.
I couldn't have done this alone.
Neither could I.
Maggie and Ethan kiss softly over the fire on stage. They continue to kiss, and in their passion, their winter coats come off. Ethan and Maggie slide onto the stage floor, another layer of sweater or hoodie being removed, their kisses more intense. We track slowly across the faces of the audience. In the darkness, they are transfixed, relieved, empathize as we hear the following.
I love you.
I love you.
Applause. Exterior of the furniture store day. In the past, we view the front of the old mill. The front is a furniture store, while the theater is in the rear. Cars pass by. It's before the Wave event, a regular day in town. And we're inside the furniture store, and there's a wood shop. It's the past. It's almost like we're back in an 1800s museum. A man, 70s, is working on a large piece of oak. A table, a bed. He's in plain carpenter clothes. He even planes the plank with a traditional old metal plane. The shelves are full with hundreds of different planes for woodworking. In the background, an iPad with a speaker playing softly some Art Blakey. Near the iPad are a set of steps and a door. Another measurement taken, a different plane selected. The man checks a yellow notepad on the large woodwork table. Appearing in the doorframe's Maggie. The man keeps working.
2 degrees missing on the far end. That old burr getting in the way.
Maggie moves over to the table and scans the notes. She moves over to the shelves with the many planes and places her hand on one.
Next one to the right.
Maggie takes the plane down and hands it to her father, Graham Ramsey, 72.
Couldn't reach that one when you were little.
I had to get that old step ladder you made me. Is it still around?
It's somewhere around here.
Graham moves around to the other end with the second plane. Maggie picks up a broom and begins sweeping a little.
No, I don't need to run lines. We're not rehearsing yet.
There's cash. The cash jars at the front if you need to get something.
You know, sometimes I stop by just to stop by. No reason.
There's always a reason. Even when you were small, you had a reason.
Would you like me to invent a reason?
Yes.
Would you build a simple wood cherry orchard for the next show?
That's more than a reason. That's a request, almost a job. Is that what's next? Cherry orchard?
Cajun wants to do a modern spin on it. Didn't you do that one back when?
Williamstown, long ago. I played Trophy Muff for that production.
Graham adjusts the large wood vise that's holding the plank.
So what's going on, Sweet Pea?
Not sure. Sometimes it's, will it work out with Ethan? Sometimes it's missing his mom. Sometimes it's running this theater.
And sometimes it's which spread for what bagel.
Graham picks up the traditional hand-cranked drill, begins a first hole. Maggie makes a face, hearing this answer.
Not everything has to have the solution right in this moment. Sometimes I have a piece of wood and I'll let it sit there. It speaks to me. It has a voice. And sometimes I have to be patient to hear its whisper. I'm an end table. I'm a stool. Let me be joinery. And so,
onion bagel with veggie spread, poppy seed with chive, and everything bagel whispers that I need to be with garlic and herb.
so what is it right now?
Plain bagel with sun-dried tomato, which is give your daughter a hug.
Plain bagel with sun-dried tomato coming right up.
Maggie receives a fatherly, warm hug. It lasts for a long moment. She picks up a spare corner of wood, smiles.
I want to be a little wood nail.
She disappears out of the doorway, Graham returning to his second drill hole, a metal bit making its way down into the oak. Interior, the loft, the pool table area, night, the present. We're back in the loft. Opening night feels like deep in the past. Ethan and Maggie are playing some 8-ball pool. Maggie takes a shot. Ethan studies the balls. It's early in the game. The light above the table flickers a few times. Close on a large box, the hum of a generator within, a black, heavy exhaust hose going out a window.
Can we make a change?
In the show?
I want to put the Jared story in the show for every night.
Ethan sinks a shot, silence in the air. Ethan studies the table.
Right in the same spot I told it.
Maggie nods.
I mean, it touched everyone. It was brave and honest, and they heard you.
Let me think about it.
Sure.
Maggie sinks an easy shot.
Did you see Graham?
It's been a while. He loves the show. He had a few notes.
Like
More about returning, the collapse.
embellishment or the company disintegrating?
I think the latter.
Ethan cracks the 8-ball into a pocket. As it falls onto the other balls, we jump cut to the pool table at night in the past. The crack of the white cue ball breaking a rack set of balls on the table. We pull back, and there's Terrence eyeballing the table after his break. Playing against him, chalking up the cue stick is Ross. Ethan hanging out in the background, zipping a dark beer. Across the dance floor, Cajun and Gretchen in the hot tub, while in the background, Maggie and Imogen are in the kitchen making dinner.
It's surreal. None of the networks can lie on air. Newscasters dropping like flies. Lockdown isn't helping any. Everyone is open carry. Militias popping up in most counties.
I don't care to talk about it, to be honest.
Ross takes his shot and pockets a solid. Jump cut to the kitchen, prepping a basic salad and slicing up veggies for a stir fry. Maggie and Imogen are 2 peas in a pod. Girl vibes.
Hacker kid figured out how to repair wearables, and it can let you know when you've earned a lie.
No fucking way.
Of course, what's left of the government wants the code, but he released it.
Mini Elon Musk.
The rates of untruth are not subsiding. Habitual patterns to lie run deep.
They're saying there are levels of lying. Like little white lies versus blatant statement lies.
Solar fashion tech is taking off. Recharge your device off your hoodie.
Maggie dumps the chopped mushrooms into the big wooden bowl. Imogen sips a glass of red wine.
So, how are you two doing since, you missed the first 2 weeks?
Brought us closer and at the same time kind of pushed us apart.
How?
Maggie looks back towards the boys at the pool table and then over to Cajun and Gretchen in the spa.
Permission?
Jump cut to the pool table. Less balls. Terrence concentrating on his shot.
Permission.
Maggie was telling me there's some science to how the particles within the Arctic Circle are vibrating differently.
Oh, getting all sciencey on us?
Our time together, besides being isolated, was profound because we could feel the change happening on a cellular level. We told one another things we'd never said to anyone.
So the sex was an 11.
Is everything a joke for you?
If I can slip in a little truth sometimes, yes.
I haven't heard truth from you, let alone something funny.
Humor is my armor, Terrence. Being the class clown was how I got through life. If I could make them laugh, then I wouldn't have to be who I really was.
And who is that, Ross? Have I met him?
Ross places his cue stick down on the table. He gets very close to Terrence, even though he's shorter.
You have. He's the outcast, full of shame, unable to mix with others. He's the kid who fed pigeons rather than try to be accepted by the kids who taunted him.
Oh, we all had stuff like that when we were kids.
That's sweet, T. Minimize my truth. Just wonderful.
Yeah, I'm a cliche myself. Old man went to prison, made me the man overnight. My mom's holding down 3 jobs. I could have joined a gang, become a thug, a gangsta. But there was this block party. These 2 jugglers messing with fire. They needed a volunteer. Lil Rapper T, now the center of the show. I felt seen, not a know-nothing, not a you ain't my son.
Guys, I think something is wrong. I need some help.
All heads turn. Cajun is face down in the hot tub, his body floating, arms out. Gretchen looks down on Cajun, unconscious. All rush over. Terrence, Ethan, and Ross manage to lift Cajun out and onto the brick floor. Cajun appears blue in the face.
We were just joking, talking, and then he had this look in his eyes, and I thought he was making a joke.
Terrence goes to work, CPR, chest compressions. Water seeps out from Cajun's mouth.
Come on, Cage! Come on!
He just told me that he loves me.
Terrence keeps working on Cajun. After another series of CPR, Terrence checks Cajun's pulse. He shakes his head no.
He's gone.
I'll call 911.
No, not yet. He's still here. He doesn't know what's happening. I need a minute with him, with his body.
All retreat. Imogen, Ross, Ethan, Maggie, Terrence. They step back towards the pool table, forlorn and processing what has happened.
I heard 911 isn't responding anymore.
What are people doing then?
Let's all just take a minute.
Maybe we could celebrate Cajun tonight. We're off book now.
I'm digging that.
I'm down.
They all look at one another in agreement, their heads turned towards Gretchen, her hand on Cajun's chest. The loft dining table. Night, later, the past. Tight on Cajun. Sunglasses, hipster hat, 1800s costume, his hand holding a goblet, a tiny umbrella sticking out. We pull back, the soundtrack kicking in, everyone's dressed up, different costumes, the dinner before them. Gretchen seated next to Cajun at the head of the table. A series of shots, Maggie pouring out some wine, Terrence recounting a story, salad being gobbled, Ross and Imogen laughing. Ethan makes a toast towards Cajun. Gretchen holding up Cajun's hand with the cup, toast back. All applauding Cajun, their fearless leader. Tied on Cajun's face, now with a white linen surrounding him on all sides. As we pull back, Cajun lies face up on the floor. His white sheet covers up the body. Several candles are glowing around the group, cuts of people speaking or praying for Cajun. Many hands fold Cajun up into the layers of white fabric, duct tape, finishing off a clear plastic tarp around his body. Downtown, exterior, the street, in the morning, the past. Close on hands, holding corners of a yellow blanket. It's heavy, holding Cajun's body. His corpse is placed beside another body already on the sidewalk. They leave. We stay on Cajun's wrapped body. A car whizzes by. Then a pedestrian walks by. Then another. We linger on the sights and sounds of downtown. Interior, the theater, morning, the past. Maggie holds Tadasana. She's in the midst of her morning yoga. Yoga mat, center stage, towel, water bottle, wedges adjacent. Maggie moves into downward dog pose. Quits cuts of the empty theater. Maggie in Vibrasana, warrior pose. She holds warrior pose and then moves into triangle pose. Interior, the laundry room. Morning, the past. Two machines side by side. The washer running. The dryer door open. Maggie emptying the machine. She begins sorting and folding. A time lapse of Maggie folding, laundering, drying, sitting, waiting, snacking. Interior, the theater. At the sound booth. The day, past, continuous. The lighting sound booth is small, and up on the second level balcony, a bird's eye view of the vaulting space above the stage. Ethan is running cables, adjusting plugs and testing a few lights. He takes out a little current testing tool. Ethan pops a button on the board.
Did the two main washes light?
Ethan waits, jump cut to the seats below. Maggie sits in the fourth row, notebook in hand, script play in a binder. She looks up towards the lighting grid.
Mags?
Now, those pet names don't always fly, E.
Maggie adjusts a line of dialogue.
You know, early on it's honey, can you get the toast? And a month later it's shithead, the bread's on fire.
Did it light?
Yes, they're on.
Jump cut, they're testing it.
Solar is giving us 400 we need. Batteries holding charges. We may just get through a few shows.
Are we gonna need the Jenny?
Ethan plugs another cord into the board.
Spot, come on. Jenny is just for backup.
Yeah, spot's on.
Tell me again why we're doing this show for no one, for free.
Because civilization has collapsed.
Oh, right.
Ethan tests another light that's right next to him, a follow spot. He focuses it down onto center stage. Suddenly we're on the theater in the past. Ross stands center getting hit by the follow spot. Rehearsal in full swing. Imogen sits cross-legged in all white as a yogi.
Yes, but the question is, how come we still don't know why lying itself makes us sick?
We're all electromagnetic beings, and it's clear there are 7 energetic centers that maintain this ever-pulsating field that each of us creates. Chakras, Sanskrit for wheel or circle.
Close on Maggie, tracking the show, making a note, listening.
And these centers now operate differently since the wave occurred.
But scientifically speaking, we still don't know how to explain the change.
Well, not completely. But that's not the point. The point is...
Interrupting, Maggie steps up onto the stage, directing the scene.
Right here, right here, let's have you stand and break the fourth wall. So the point is that evolution can be this sudden, violent dance with unknown results.
Imogen gets it. She takes over.
That can produce harm, even death, if we don't listen, and more importantly, acknowledge the inner life that we all share with intelligence.
Staggering into the theater, clutching his stomach, is Terrence, blood on his hoodie and hands. He's weak.
Ethan! First aid kit, ASAP!
Terrence sits down in the front row.
Had some words with these two punks. Schooled them some truth. I guess they didn't like it.
Hospital?
Ethan!
20 minutes with checkpoints.
Ethan arrives with the kit.
We need to see it, old friend.
Ethan pulls up the hoodie and t-shirt. A hole in his stomach is seeping blood, a steady trickle.
Fucking stings.
We don't have time. He's bleeding out. The kit box is under the board.
Ethan zips off like a bolt of lightning.
On it.
They're all raging out there. These kids don't care anymore. It's a game to them.
Ross, real vodka, right now.
Ross disappears.
Permission?
Terrence barely nods. Ethan returns with the kit, a fishing box with small tools for lighting and sound.
Had to give him some old school truth, huh? Nothing like getting shot before rehearsal.
Maggie opens the kit and breaks out several electrical tools. Ross returns with the real vodka. Imogen leans in close as Ethan and Ross each pin down an arm of Terrence on either side.
The truth is, I'd rather give you shit than tell you that I like you.
Maggie places a round-tip scissors down next to a large threaded fish hook.
And aside from that opening night when I sucked your sweet dick,
Ross and Ethan both look over to Imogen, surprised. Maggie holds up a dish rag, pours vodka on it.
and then I treated you like shit most nights after, I want you to know that
Close on the butane torch lighter, Maggie hits the flame and sterilizes the end of the small, thin pliers.
that I like you. That I was afraid to be rejected by you.
Imogen removes a white silk scarf and twists it tight. Maggie looks over at the boys and nods. They hold hard.
Look at me, T. Right here.
Terrence opens his eyes.
This is gonna hurt like a motherfucker.
Imogen places the scarf into Terrence's mouth, pours the vodka on his bullet wound. Terrence growls in pain.
Hold on, T. Okay, breathe.
Close on the wound, the blood, Maggie lowers the sterilized screwdriver into the bullet wound. Terrence biting down on the scarf.
It's just how I deal, T. You know, making someone else's issues so I don't have to deal with any of my own shit.
Maggie now lowers the pliers. Imogen pops on her iPhone light, holds it over his torso. Terrence bites hard, writhing in pain.
But underneath my passive-aggressive, come here, go away, bitch self is someone...
Terrence tries to escape as Ethan and Ross grapple the arms down.
Is someone who just wanted to get to know you. Not just run lines and fuck.
Almost there.
More unbearable pain shoots through Terrence.
Almost there. Ugh, got it.
Ross and Ethan let go. Maggie fire torches the big fish hook, Imogen removes the wet scarf from Terrence's tight jaw.
You there, Terrence?
Terrence opens his eyes. Imogen floats him with a mouth kiss. It's juicy.
I'm gonna sew you up now. It's not gonna be pretty, but you'll live.
Terrence passes out. We pull back and float up, looking down on the scene in the semi-darkness. The woodshop, evening, the past. Ethan is sanding an almost finished stage door frame. Just a little further away, staining a small end table, is Graham.
You might want to double check the hinge locations if you're recycling a show door.
Ethan takes out a measuring tape. In the doorway, Maggie appears.
Hi. Well, that looks good.
Both Ethan and Graham say thanks at the same time.
They're gonna be here soon. We still need to set things up.
Okay.
Ethan puts the tape measure down.
You need an extra hand?
We're good.
Interior, the lounge area in the loft, the evening, the past. Standing in a circle, all facing a bouquet of flowers, surrounding a candle are Imogen, Ross, Ethan, Terrence, Maggie, and Gretchen. Imogen holds a smudging sage that's smoking. She moves from one person to the next in the circle.
Just let go. Let go of resistance, of thoughts. Allow the emotions to drain out with the sage.
Each person raises their arms as Imogen smudges their body back and front, above and below.
Breathe evenly and just let thoughts arise and disappear.
As Imogen comes to Terrence, who has healed up some since the attack, does not lift his arms up.
Hold Dawn, Sven, and Cajun in your heart and mind. Send them love and positive white light.
Each person opens their eyes after the visualization and smudging. Jump cut to moments later in the past. Tight on Gretchen.
He came to me in a dream the other night. Told me he's okay. That it was his time. That everything's okay. But it's not. It's not okay. This is so hard not to have him right now.
Tight on Ross.
It's hard to be brave right now. Cage would probably tell me just get on with it. He had a great director's sensibility. Instincts about what is going on inside the character and about me.
Close on Maggie.
It's been so hard to pause when I speak, before I speak. Listen to my thoughts. Something Sven said he was working on all the time. Speaking truthfully, no matter what the cost.
Close on Ethan, who just looks towards everyone, nods, and holds both hands together over his heart.
No words.
Close on Imogen.
Dawn was kind of like a little sister during our shows, asking for advice or recounting some crazy shit off stage right before I'd have to go on. I miss her heaps.
Tight on Terrence. He's looking down towards the light of the candle. He can't seem to find the words. The silence is deafening.
I don't know how I'm still here. They're all gone. I had my beefs with Cajun. He always knew I was street smart, headstrong. Took that first year in the company to see he was patient. I didn't know Sven was open in that way. I'd look in the mirror and see a man who's attracted to men. Dawn could see it. I wasn't able to tell her. Being monogamous wasn't really in me the way she wanted.
We see quick cuts of the others listening and hearing Terrence. We linger on them, all present.
I'm feeling a lot of guilt. Like, I caused some of this. It's taken all of me not to blame myself. The truth doesn't set you free. It just gives you another day to wonder why you're still here.
Interior of the lounge. Night. Later. In the past. The remembrance ceremony is over. Imogen and Terrence are sequestered deep in the sofa. Ross is chatting to Ethan around the fireplace, flames leaping around. Jump over to the kitchen. Maggie's placing together some tea and biscuits. Gretchen comes over.
It was very healing tonight. I needed that closure.
Maggie and Gretchen hug.
I'm gonna take a bath.
Incense is already there and rose-scented candle. You know, the water takes a minute to heat up.
Oh yeah, not a worry. Maggie, you and E have been so great. This wave has taken me to places I never thought we'd go.
You want me to bring you some tea?
Thanks. I'm good, Mags. I don't need any.
Gretchen wanders off. Interior of the lounge, living area, night. Later. All the crew are still in the same places. Ethan places another log on the fire. Teacups are empty. The coffee on the coffee table.
Hey, we're gonna take off. It's been sketchy out there at night.
Terrence is clearly with Imogen now since the gunshot.
Well, I keep my mace in my hand when I'm out late. Is Gretch crashing with you tonight?
She's still in the bath.
She's been in there a while.
They all realize something's off. They head to the bath door right near the kitchen. Maggie knocks.
Gretch, okay in there?
Interior of the bath, nighttime, the past. They enter the bath. Resting with her wrists slit is Gretchen, the bath water full of her blood. She is gone. Everyone slowly enters the bath. They all gaze down on Gretchen's lifeless body. She looks serene. The slits in her wrists vertical, the blade on the tile floor. Exterior downtown street, mourning the past. Continuous. Close on the hands holding four corners of a green blanket. Gretchen's body, her corpse, is placed beside four bodies already on the sidewalk. We stay on Gretchen's wrapped body. We linger on the sights and sounds of downtown. Interior in the theater on stage, night. It's the present. Maggie and Ethan, mid-show, look up at the Nova spotlight. It flickers slightly.
Alone together in my tower moment.
Maggie turns to face Ethan in the light.
I killed a man today. I shot him. Twice. I felt nothing. I wanted to feel something. But I didn't.
The theater is now half full. Just over 50 people are in the audience. It feels different. The crowd, so present. We scan them as they listen.
He was going to kill his wife. If someone had told me I would have to do what I've had to do, I'd have Told them they're crazy. We've all had death on a grand scale in our lives on the daily. Taking a life to save a life is not justice. It's not compassion. It's loss on every level. As I have become numb, speaking your mind may hold some untruth, and to speak your heart can take you to places you never believed you could go, on stage or in this new world.
Ethan lights a candle. It burns on the stage floor before them.
I lost my father a short time ago. He disappeared as many have done. My father, Graham, raised me not to lie. From a young age, my mom and dad always told the truth to me and to one another. Yeah, it was painful sometimes, but liberating as well. Witnessing conversations at the dinner table that eventually led to their separation. Or being with my mom in hospice, hearing her whispers of personal truth, no matter the pain. I imagine Graham found his way to one of those communities that have popped up. Sure, I see him here still puttering around the theater he's founded, but I know he's gone.
Here's the note Graham left us before he went softly into the night.
Ethan takes out the original note. We see the faces of the audience. We rack from one row to the next, the crowd transfixed.
The loss of myself in this life, my body of works, the contributions we have all made brings me to a conclusion.
Inside the wood shop, we jump over to Graham writing the letter on his woodworking table. We transition to Graham's voice as he writes.
This conclusion has its own mythology. The new timeline before me. An opportunity for each of us to enter or depart our brave new world in ease and faith in one another. Sweet daughter, you are a love I shall never lose. I know Mom and I were strict in certain aspects of raising you, and I'm sorry for any hurts and wrongs we caused, yet I hope it serves you well within this new container. Lying is natural. Up until a certain age, it's almost encouraged. Lying is integral to human evolution. This thing with the sun is allowing us to synthesize a natural trait in order to know what telling the truth truly is.
Interior of the theater, Ethan.
No need to find me. I'm always here with you. Going to find my Iceland. I take you with me into the unknown. Dad.
Maggie and Ethan squat down and blow out the candle together on the floor. Interior, theater stage, morning. Ethan and Maggie hold a yoga pose together. They both appear sluggish or tired, the weight of the new world upon them. We speed up as they move through 45 minutes of yoga postures, Maggie occasionally adjusting Ethan as they end their session in meditation. Finally, they each open their eyes and stand.
Have you noticed?
Ethan remains silent.
Word's getting out.
Ethan nods in agreement.
Is it strange to you for us to be here alone? We lost everybody.
Ethan seems preoccupied in his thoughts.
I've been holding on. The show keeps me from running away.
There's nowhere to go.
How are you?
Struggling?
Is that okay?
I don't know.
People are coming to see us every night because we lessen their struggle, and you lessen their struggle.
Holding on. Being up here with you is my escape, my reprieve from the struggle. I'll never know what happened to my folks. It's just the way things go. My brother was my last connection to them.
Maggie moves closer.
No. Here's an idea. You want to get married? Will you marry me?
Perking up, caught off guard.
Can I think about it? I'm just kidding. Yes, I'll marry you.
Exterior, the downtown street, daytime, the past. Imogen and Terrence pack up a 4x4 truck behind them, linger with their goodbyes out back behind the old mill. Ethan and Maggie face them as they get ready to depart.
It's because of you we're doing it.
Maybe.
Yeah, those non-tech communities. We had to take the risk.
It's Canada. Well, what's left of Canada.
Keep in touch, T. Take care of each other.
Imogen and Terrence look at one another.
We will.
Speak for yourself.
They smile.
I hear checkpoints are easier now. Where is it again?
Manitoba.
They have their hugs and long looks at one another.
Do me a favor. Keep Keep an eye out for my dad up there.
Imogen nods, eyes locking with Maggie.
Of course. And thanks for the extra gas. We'll definitely need it.
Terrence and Imogen load into the F-250 and are gone. The sound of the truck disappears. Ethan and Maggie walk back inside as we remain on a fire pit in the background. Exterior of the fire pit in the backyard at night. Maggie places a small log onto the fire. It looks like it's going to be a while. It's been going for a while. Red embers glowing. A white outdoor string of lights hang off the mill behind her. Maggie sits back down. She faces Graham, seated opposite her.
Well, you still haven't lost the fire pit touch.
I got it from the best, right?
Nice touch adding the goodbye letter to the show.
It was Ethan's idea. I asked him to marry me.
And?
Maggie makes a face.
Kind of a tough time to make it official.
Right. So many in the clergy speaking untruth.
Do you think Mom would like Ethan?
Does a 74 Firebird have shiny hubcaps? She'd say he reminds her of me, but nicer. She'd be happy for you and tell you to not have kids too quickly, like we did.
Permission?
I'm not here, but sure. Permission.
Why did you leave that way? The letters, no hug goodbye.
I'm sorry, sweet pea. It was a matter of survival. If I had stayed, I'd have done something bad to myself. When I was your age, I was in New Zealand, and a buddy of mine had told me about this sheep farmer who had some land for sale on the South Island. It was a bitch to get to at the time, but I found him. And he put me in the back of his ute, took me up these switchbacks to the top of the mountain. I was hanging on for life as he cut back and forth on this little dirt road. But when we arrived at the summit, the ocean, the vista, the green landscape, he called to me. It was sad and euphoric all at the same time. I wanted to remain there in that moment, buy that parcel, disappear. I left and went off to find that moment for a last time. One final adventure before I'm too old to use a plane or a hammer.
Maggie gets up to place another log onto the fire. As she pushes the logs around with a stick, she responds.
Well, don't be surprised if I drag my husband out of this old mill and go find that farmer and buy that land.
What land? And farmer? With your husband?
Maggie turns and faces Ethan in the doorway to the building. We reverse to Ethan's point of view. Maggie's at the fire pit alone. No Graham. Ethan comes over.
Was he sitting there?
Maggie nods.
How's he doing?
He was happy to hear we're getting hitched.
Great word. Is it something you want to stop? Seeing him?
I don't know if I can turn him off. I see him so clear. I hear him so vividly.
Think he's still out there, making his way to
New Zealand.
New Zealand?
You know, on some level, I buried him, but on another, he's alive and well. Doesn't matter.
Ethan picks up the fire stick and rustles the logs. While standing up, a figure appears on the edge of the light from the fire. He seems to be propped up by a set of crutches.
Are you guys talking about me?
Ross steps into the glow of the fire and the white lights. He looks awful, emaciated, eyes sunken, weak. Some cancer?
Ross, we thought you were...
Had died?
We're gone. You left town.
Come sit, the fire's warm.
Ross steps a little closer. He's limping.
What happened, Ross? We couldn't find you.
Ethan, still standing, has the fire stick in his hand.
You know how it is these days. Things got hard. I didn't want to come here, bring my baggage.
Ross, your family.
I am not family. I'm your average actor who couldn't stand himself. Lost my apartment. Started fibbing just to get by. At first nothing, no pains, but then things started to feel like weird. My arms, my legs, I know, I look like the zombie apocalypse. I need that wheelchair from when we did the 5th of July. Can you spare it?
Of course, it's yours. No need to return it. Come sit down.
I can't. I've been having episodes. I've been snapping, Megs. I'm not safe.
Ross, we're safe. Just sit down. It's all right.
Ross finally gives in and takes the wood chair Graham was seated in. His body relaxes, a small respite from the darkness.
Do you know what it is?
I don't want to talk about it. I just need a wheelchair. I'm sorry. I can't think clearly. It's in my bones.
In your bones?
ALS. Lou Gehrig's disease. I'm atrophying.
So sorry, Ross.
I'll get the chair.
Ethan goes inside. An odd silence lingers for a moment.
You know, Sam Shepard died from the same thing, so I'm in good company. Didn't your dad do Alive the Mind?
Yeah, I think so. A revival. You know, he's gone.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Maggie. Did he go peacefully?
Hope so.
Did he die?
He left. Left me a letter.
Oh. He was a character. Doing all that woodwork in there? I've got a matter of months. Depends if I can keep it together and not lie. Lying feels so strange now. When you know you're lying, and then you wait. Some ache or stabbing pain, and then there's that part of me that's like, oh, this is what they all go through. It's kind of addictive. You lie a few times, and then you're like, yes, I'm hooked. A kid in a candy store.
The back door pops open with a clang. Ethan rolls out the metal silver wheelchair, folded up. Maggie and Ross turn.
Seems to be in working order.
Ethan pulls the wheelchair open and flips down the footrests.
You know you're fine to stay here with us,
No.
Ross.
I'm not safe. Maggie, I'm not safe.
Maggie nods.
Can I give you a hug?
A little one.
Ethan looks a little concerned but yields. Maggie gives Ross a hug. We can observe it's emotionally painful for Ross, who eventually receives the love.
Thank you.
Ross steadies himself into the wheelchair, gets his feet into the footrest. He smiles like all is all right in the world.
Don't worry, I still have my mace. Plus, if I die, I'll depart rock hard down there.
Ross laughs awkwardly. Maggie and Ethan watch him roll off into the night. Interior, the theater, the dressing room. Evening, the present. Maggie and Ethan in seats opposite Broadway-lit mirrors.
The line was out the door and around the corner.
Doesn't matter. 7 people or 200.
It doesn't, but it's wild that they're coming from so far away.
Can we take the gun out of the show?
Ethan ponders the change.
We could, but it does create dramatic tension.
I don't think it's necessary anymore.
It's your play.
It's us up there, and I feel safe up there, so let's cut it.
Okay, no gun.
Interior, the theater, on stage, night, later, mid-show. The theater's full. All seats are taken. The vibe is heightened. Energy palpable from the crowd, so present.
I came out here to just be with you, Maggie. Not to discover myself, not to forgive or forget, but just to be here with you right now. This fire, this moment, this exploding star.
Again, Maggie hits the spotlight. It shines down, hitting the stage.
I couldn't have done this alone.
Neither could I.
Maggie and Ethan kiss softly over the fire. They continue to kiss. Their winter coats come off. We track slowly across the faces of the audience. The darkness, they are transfixed, relieved. Maggie suddenly stands, leaving Ethan on the stage floor.
This is going to sound like an odd request, but I'm stopping the show for a moment to ask you for something.
Ethan stands and goes along with Maggie's improv.
We're so happy to have this theater full for the first time in a long time. My dad would be so happy. So the other night, I proposed to the man next to me, and I even wrote vows. Is there by chance...
There are no accidents.
Okay, is there by accident someone here in our audience qualified to marry us on this stage right now?
A hush and murmur roll across the audience.
And by qualified, we mean qualified?
After another moment, a gray-haired woman around 75 years old stands up.
I'm qualified.
The woman makes her way up onto the stage. Maggie takes out 2 small pieces of paper with vows and a paper for the woman.
Maggie's very prepared for this, as I am not. What's your name?
My name is Melva.
Melva. We're happy You're here this evening.
Maggie hands Melva the slip of paper and then takes her place on the other side, Melva in the spotlight.
Do you have rings?
Ethan checks his pockets and shakes his head no. Ethan smiles as Maggie produces 2 bands for the ceremony.
A true marriage begins well before an improvised wedding during their own show, and these efforts of marriage continue beyond the ceremony. Since the stroke of the pen to create the legal bond of marriage is no longer required, today, under these new times, all that is necessary in the witnessing is the witnessing and declaration of vows under the vast intelligence guiding this every moment. Today, Ethan Clark Deblinger and Magnolia Sue Ramsey both declare their commitment to each other before an audience of friends. In the years that Ethan and Maggie have been together, their love through the wave and telling one another personal truth has turned them into the couple you see before you.
Jump cut to moments later, close on Ethan.
I take you as my partner, as a mirror of my love, as a compliment to me in every way. My lover, my friend, my Maggie.
Tight on Maggie.
I promise to always communicate freely with you, never hold back, but be honest and loyal as a partner, to love you madly and love you without limit.
We see Melva sandwiched between Ethan and Maggie, listening as they read their vows.
Even if I am thirsty and your drink is practically right there, I swear not to drink it.
I promise I'll wash and leave you dry, so we can spend each night in the kitchen laughing together.
You scan the crowd as they are all so happy to be witnessing this union. Some are even crying.
We belong together because we are as hot as young Han Solo and Princess Leia.
Chuckles from the audience.
I promise to continue to make your friends jealous of our relationship for the rest of my life.
Maggie and Ethan are close, face to face, inches apart.
Let's be the only people to get each other's jokes.
Can't wait to take your last name. I'm totally gonna steal your identity.
Let's grow old disgracefully together.
I love you. Pants or no pants.
Ethan places his ring on Maggie's finger.
I give you this ring as a symbol of my love.
Maggie places her ring on Ethan's finger.
I give you this ring as a symbol of my love.
By the power vested in me by the state of universal law and the vibration of love, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride.
A standing ovation erupts as Ethan and Maggie kiss on stage.
I now present to you Mr. and Mrs. Ramsey Deblinger.
The audience continues to rejoice and applaud. Interior cut to the bedroom. That night, later, Ethan and Maggie are relaxing in bed. It feels like they have been celebrating their nuptials. A few candles are lit. The bedroom is rustic and comfortable. A bottle of wine is open and 2 glasses are half full at the end of the table.
So, Mr. Ramsey Deblinger, do you care to divulge where you found such a nice Pinot Noir in this day and age?
I never reveal my sources.
You know, under universal law, you must surrender your source to your now wife.
This rare Pinot was extracted from the hidden, secure location.
Was this secure location within the premises?
Now, wife, yes, by universal law and the vows of marriage, this Pinot was derived from these premises.
You may kiss your bride.
Ethan kisses Maggie. They smile and have a sip of the wine from the same glass.
Oh, you have that look in your eyes. Let me guess. You'd like to get married every show and want to add it beginning tomorrow night.
Did you know? Is this a good idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's quiet now. No sirens, no shouting. It's been so long since things felt normal.
Just me and you now.
We're out of fuel after tomorrow.
Figure it out.
It's our family, Ethan. Can't believe they're gone. We need to barter again. Almost out of basics.
Figure it out, Max. But right now, according to universal law, my sources need revealing.
Your sources need unsealing.
Maggie wets her fingertips and puts out a candle.
My sources need appealing.
Ethan licks the tips of his fingers and blots out another candle. The room's very dark now.
Your sources are so endearing.
And it all has zero meaning.
Theater stage, night, the present. We're on the top. We're at the top of the show. The theater's full. Even the upper balcony is packed. It's unbelievable.
Perfect.
Cosmic intervention, a quantum reckoning no one could sidestep, other than Himalayan monks and a few Amish families.
Ethan goes over to the kitchen cabinet, takes out a box, and places it on the dining table.
Do you really have to do that now?
Ethan opens up the wood box and removes 2 black flashlights and places them on the table. He takes out a bag of batteries.
Better safe than sorry. Rather have than have not.
So why are we so lucky? We're still here.
You mean, why did you invite me to go to Iceland to view it? Some remote village, a 2-day walk to civilization?
We were lucky to be stranded there.
The theater, night, the present. Ethan and Maggie are standing behind a wood railing around 12 feet long. Projected onto the scrim are the sails and backdrop of a large sailboat.
As we were able to gain passage on a working schooner headed to Portugal, we found ourselves hearing pieces of news off of what was left of the internet.
Ethan holds up a large black folding cardboard laptop where the screen is cut out so his face can be in it.
This on the heels of a week of massive solar storms.
Maggie performs a chaotic interpretive dance with fake sign language to Ethan's monologue.
Earth's magnetosphere was pummeled by strong gamma-ray particles. This triggered many large X-class coronal mass ejections, several of which were direct hits, knocking out satellites and energy utilities across the planet.
Maggie stands next to the cardboard laptop frame and interjects occasionally.
The latest celebrity names hit by the now unsealed indictments include Jimmy Kimmel, Anderson Cooper, Rachel Maddow, and Johnny Depp.
All facing arrest.
Chaotic movement.
Between the DNC and half of the House of Representatives disappearing, no one really seems to be able to tell us what's going on.
In other news, John Podesta committed suicide while in custody. The Obama arrests, along with the...
They're all finally going down. They're going down, down, down. This wave has exposed all of them.
Maggie and Ethan hold on to the railing as if heavy waves are hitting the ship. Maggie returns to herself in character.
We were able to get a military flight back to the States.
My dad, who served and raised my brother and I on military bases, well, let's just say lying was not an option when I was a kid.
But one of the strangest things we discovered since the wave is that when fully committed to character on stage, lying within the show is truth.
Meaning we don't incur cellular injury if we tell a fib on stage, as long as we're deeply in character.
So in this show, we're playing ourselves, so it's more questionable as actors what being in character is.
Like people with multiple personality disorder, they can tell lies because for one of their multiples, it's the truth.
Not that we're about to lie to you during the show.
Or reveal that we have multiple personalities inside of us.
A round of chuckles emerge from the audience. The theater stage, night, the present, a series of shots. We repeat various scenes from the show during more sold-out free shows over the weeks. They get shorter and faster as we repeat and view the audience in rapid shots.
Hence this play. Where were we?
Iceland, being in love.
Ah, being in love, right. All before we each had our own come to Jesus moment.
Jump cut to Ethan. He takes a breath. New character.
I'm not sure. I go to my office, nothing works. I don't know what to do with myself.
Can you say that?
I miss a world of deceit and fake news. Double speak, not having to second guess what you're about to say.
Jump cut.
I couldn't have done this alone.
Neither could I.
Maggie and Ethan kiss softly in the fire. Jump cut.
But we have no idea what's happening in the world.
I know. Isn't that wonderful?
Jump cut.
Alone together in my tower moment.
I killed a man today. I shot him. Twice. I felt nothing.
Jump cut.
In my tower moment.
I shot him. Twice. I felt nothing.
Jump cut.
In my tower moment.
I shot him. Twice. I felt nothing.
Jump cut.
Tower moment.
I felt nothing.
Jump cut.
Moment.
Nothing.
Loft. The dining table. Night. Later. The present. The shows are over. Ethan and Maggie have a meager meal before them, potatoes and chicken. There's a somber low energy to the meal, as if they've run out of things to say. Maggie forks her food.
Here.
Maggie doesn't look up, something heavy weighing her down.
Is it the show?
Maggie shakes her head no. A tear rolls out of the corner of her eye and runs down her cheek.
It's not the show.
Ethan listens.
It's waiting for this to settle. It's not knowing, me not knowing.
Silence. Ethan leans over and places his head against Maggie's forehead. He's at a slight angle, not perfectly forehead to forehead. Fluidly, without knowing who is leading, they both rise up, standing in unison. Their shoulders touch, then arms, as they gently pivot into the open space away from the table. Maggie and Ethan dance and move together in silence. Their contact improvisation takes them into deep, unspoken exchanges. A series of shots. Ethan and Maggie rolling, gliding around one another. Maggie rotating up onto Ethan's back while he's on all fours, providing his backside as a table. Close cuts of their breathing, their touch, the sensitivity, floating down onto the wood floor, rolling together as one, flying upwards into Ethan's shoulders. Maggie spins and slides down as both collapse, their energy, touch melting together. They end in a soft back-to-back sitting position on the floor. Maggie appears lighter, both breathing heavily. They end together. Interior, the kitchen, night. Moments later, the kettle is heating up and comes to a boil. Maggie and Ethan are by the sink, finishing off the dishes, mugs ready for some herbal tea. There's no need for words as Maggie dries and Ethan finishes the plates.
No one knows. Not knowing is part of the knowing.
The water is poured into the mugs, the tea bags added, honey squeezed.
It's like what your dad wrote. An opportunity for each of us to enter or depart our brave new world in ease and faith in one another.
Don't believe everything you read.
They smile wry smirks towards one another. Suddenly a loud crash echoes from below. Maggie and Ethan rubberneck towards the theater, the floor below. A second bang echoes up. Ethan pulls open a drawer and grabs his Beretta. He checks the chamber, clicks the safety off. He shoots Maggie a look. In one continuous shot, we follow Ethan and Maggie down the steps into the lobby area. Several scurrying, muffled grunts and crate sounds emanate from the theater. Point of view behind Maggie, we follow them through the lobby in the dark. They turn the corner by the piano, and now they can make out someone on the stage floor. The show's kitchen cupboard has been torn off the set. We can hear softly in the darkness of the theater a voice.
Where is it? Why isn't it here?
The man's voice is scratchy, irritated. Ethan pops on a mag, flashlight, its beam hitting the figure in the floor.
Don't move! Identify yourself!
Ross?
They move closer to the edge of the stage, Ethan still pointing the gun at the man.
Where'd it go? Yes, it's me. It's gone.
Where did what go?
The mag light lights up the wheelchair nearby.
The fucking gun from the show.
Ross lies prostrate on the floor, the flashlights and batteries from the show around him, the cupboard smashed.
Why do you want the gun, Ross?
Maggie and Ethan step up onto the stage and get closer to Ross. Maggie hits the stage lights. The wash comes on. Ross, blinded for a moment, he can barely move. He struggles to sit, leaning against the set. His ALS has progressed, his breathing belabored.
Fucking flashlights?
His voice is raspy. He struggles to get the words out.
You took the gun out of the show.
Ross, it's me, Maggie and Ethan.
I know who the fuck you are, Maggie.
Ethan still has the Beretta trained on Ross.
Yes, Ross. We took the gun out of the show.
Ross looks up at Ethan. He sees the handgun trained on him.
Please, Ethan. I tried pills. I'm too weak now. Even my vocal cords are hardening. Please, kill me.
I'm not gonna kill you, Ross.
Then let Maggie do it. My arms are barely working. My hands are claws now. Have mercy on me, Maggie. Take my life, please.
Maggie's not about to take your life either.
Ethan, give me the gun.
Ethan looks at Maggie.
Are you sure?
Maggie nods.
Thank you, Maggie. God bless you.
Do it quick. Just get it over with.
Ethan leaves the stage towards the lobby area.
I knew I could count on you, Maggie. I've been out of Oxy. It's excruciating, the pain.
I'm not gonna take your life, Ross, but I'm gonna help you.
Ross looks up at Maggie. Interior, the theater lobby area. Continuous. The present. Ethan is at the makeshift bar counter. He's waiting. He's tense. Behind the bar, he looks for a swig of anything. He fishes out an empty bottle of Jack. He opens it and waits for the last drops to make their way down. A small taste suffices. As he places the bottle down, Maggie is standing there. Ethan looks at her. She moves close to Ethan. He places his hands on her. Kablam! They both know what is next. We follow Ethan and Maggie back into the theater. They arrive on stage. Ross is somehow still alive. The gun beside him on the floor. Ross has one hand cupping his throat, the blood rushing down his clothes, his mouth agape, but no words escape, his eyes wide. Maggie looks at Ethan. She picks up the gun. We follow Ethan's point of view as he exits. We're tight on his face and torso. We move backwards into the lobby. Maggie, out of focus in the background, raises the gun with both hands. We keep our point of view following Ethan, turning the corner into the lobby. Kablam! The sound of the gun echoes through the lobby. Ethan stops in his tracks, a remorseful expression on his face. Exterior downtown street, morning. The past. Close on hands holding corners of a red blanket. It's heavy, holding Ross's body. His corpse is placed alone on the sidewalk. We linger on Ross's body, wrapped tight, the sounds of the street in the background. Interior, theater, stage. That night, it's the present. Blackness, footsteps, silence.
I know you're there. You gonna pretend you're not home? Or you gonna open the door?
Close on Ethan, the door swings open. Maggie, small backpack. She looks different. Tired. Not all there. She's phoning it in? Jump cut to later in the show. Again, the show is sold out. Every seat taken. The show is a hit. A few quick cuts of the crowd in the darkness. The Icelandic projection on the scrim. The vast landscape. The stars at sunset. The tiny house on the hills.
I couldn't do it alone. You were the only one I felt I could deal with me, be with me. Supernova was my...
Ethan knows something's off. Maggie is not on the regular script.
my tower.
Maggie turns to Ethan.
Together alone. So glad you're all here. Here in this crazy new world. Some of you may not know this, but I'm dyslexic, so I suffer from dyslexia.
A slight chuckle comes from the audience.
I can't keep going, so this evening will be the final performance. The show, this theater, this man have kept me going, kept me alive through the event. I killed a man the other day.
Ethan lets Maggie go. He knows she needs to let it out.
I was trying to help him when he couldn't help himself. I don't want to cushion what it was, stop his suffering, release him, take away his pain. I killed Ross and then we put him on the street like so many of you have had to do.
Maggie moves back over to the glass of water on the table. The cupboard has been hung back up, a new door on one side.
Ross knew my father who started this theater.
Maggie has a zip of water and then goes over to the cooler and opens it.
The first shows here on this stage were when I was little. My dad was bigger than life up there.
Maggie reaches into the cooler and takes out the Beretta as if it's part of the show.
Tell me it's empty, Maggie.
Maggie cocks the gun. We can feel the audience become tense.
It's okay. Ever since Graham left us this note.
Maggie looks at Ethan.
Give me the gun, Mags.
Maggie points the Beretta down, but towards Ethan.
This note.
Ethan takes out the note.
See, my dad, Graham Ramsey, couldn't say goodbye. He couldn't write goodbye, but he couldn't face his daughter and tell me he was leaving.
Ethan is looking for a chance to disarm Maggie. Maggie notices Ethan and slowly places the muzzle up against her temple. Oh, a woman's voice from out of the blue. Is this part of the show?
Absolutely.
Not.
My father wasn't able to face the music, so instead he wrote a note. The last paragraph spelling it out. The last paragraph spelling it out.
Ethan unfolds the letter but never looks at it. Maggie keeps the gun pointed at her head.
No need to find me. I'm always here with you. Going to find my Iceland. I take you with me into the unknown. Dad.
A voice from the balcony speaks.
It's true. I'm always here with you. I take you with me everywhere.
Maggie looks up to the balcony.
You're not my father!
Ethan and the audience all turns towards the balcony.
Everything is theater for you. As you said, it's a matter of survival.
The man stands. All are looking at him. He walks from the balcony down the back steps, Maggie losing her mind.
It was a matter of survival, Sweet Pea. I was having the same kind of thoughts you're having right now.
Maggie suddenly points the gun towards the lobby side of the theater, the man appearing in the shadows, his silhouette in sight.
No need for the gun, Maggie. It's just like I said when I left.
Step into the light. I need to see you, Dad.
An opportunity for each of us to enter or depart our brave new world in ease and faith in one another. You are a love I shall never lose.
The man steps into the light, all eyes from the audience on him. Maggie looks at Graham, a loving smile on his face. Kablam! The gun goes off. Graham looks down at his chest. The blood begins to seep out. We pan back up. The shock on Ethan's face is palpable. Maggie looks down at her hands and drops the Beretta, horror upon her face. The audience aghast. Ethan falls to the ground. Maggie's point of view, she walks down to Ethan, his breathing heavy. He looks up at his love. Ethan mouths the words, "Love you." Fade to black. Exterior, the downtown street, morning, the present. Close on hands, holding corners of a white blanket. It's heavy, holding Ethan's body. His corpse is placed on the sidewalk. We linger on Ethan's body, wrapped tight, the sounds of the street in the background. Interior, a hospital cafeteria day in the future. 1 year later, we're in the psychiatric ward cafeteria. Only a couple of other patients are sitting with tea. Maggie sits by a window, stirring her coffee, her journal and sketch pad before her. She picks up a colored Sharpie and jots down a note. Outside are various people in recovery, some strolling with family, other in wheelchairs. After another note and a zip of coffee, we see Graham out on the walkway outside. Maggie looks outside and sees Graham, who looks towards Maggie in the window and waves. Graham gestures to come inside. He stands and walks towards the door. Maggie looks towards the doors to the patio in the cafeteria. The door swings open and Graham enters. He looks towards his daughter, smiles, and comes over.
You want some coffee?
I just wanted to stop by again. See how the play's coming along.
I've let that one go for the moment. Just me journaling.
That's good. Let it just stay. Have you been making progress?
Since the diagnosis, side effects from antidepressants, slow and steady.
Slow but steady is good.
Everything okay at the shop?
Now that things are returning to a new normal, yeah, sure. It's fine back at the shop.
Is the wood still telling you what it wants to be?
It wants to be a plain bagel with sun-dried tomato.
It's good to me.
Maggie stands, as does Graham. They hug, a deep, loving hug together. It goes on and on. They finally look at one another.
I'll stop by tomorrow, if that's good with you.
That's good.
Maggie watches Graham depart. She returns to her journal and coffee. Fade out. The end.